Engage. Hey, folks, we're in the captain's seat. Speaking of captains, I don't know if any of you have been following the Captain Picard or Star Trek Picard trailers, but it looks pretty freaking sweet. I haven't really watched Star Trek since I watched some of Deep Space Nine, but I haven't really watched it since Next Generation. But the trailer for that looks pretty freaking good, so yeah, I'm pretty excited. But I was thinking when I was sitting here, I'm back in the captain's chair, we're back in the room here, doing a quick little video, not a bunch of exciting pickups, but I thought I'd do a little video and try to show some little recent little pickups that aren't really that, you know, nothing to write home about maybe, but I was excited, so I figured we'd get started. Now, I'm going to let you know right off about the health stuff. We'll knock it out just so we're not dealing with it. First things first, I had the scope done on my stomach. Turns out I have gastritis, and it had eroded part of the stomach tissue, or erosive gastritis. They were going to put me on Nexium, but I was already on Protonics, and evidently it's a similar medication, so evidently when the doctor gave it to me that weekend when I went in there, before I went into the emergency room, it did take a couple days to get into my system, but once it did, it kind of started doing the job. So evidently it was the right thing, but we really needed to do the EGD scopy thing in order to electrogastro and do it to find out what exactly was going on. And the step 2 of that is they're still trying to figure out what's going on with my liver exactly. They tried doing this fibro scan thing on me, and for some reason it's only supposed to take like 5 minutes, and it's supposed to be real quick and easy. I was in there for over 30 minutes, and 3 different people tried to use this machine on me and could not get it to work right. I don't know why, but I've got the perfect body type for the machine not to work, I guess. I don't know. So they recommended I have some blood work drawn, and they did. And then finally, Thursday afternoon, after I pestered them since Tuesday, because it had been a week since I had it done, they finally got a hold of me and said that the results were kind of in the middle of the road. Some of them were a little off, and some of them were fine. So they recommended the best course of action, considering we've already tried doing the other scan and it didn't work. Instead of doing another ultrasound, because they already did a CT scan, was to go ahead and have a liver biopsy done, which is a small incision that they do in your right side. They numb the area, and then they stick a probe in with a needle on the tip. Sorry, I wasn't flipping you off. And it goes into your liver and takes a hair, like a hair width piece of your liver out, and then they analyze that and see where you're at. And they said in most cases after that, it's just a matter of starting at knowing the starting point and then monitoring it. And the past few weeks, I've really switched my diet. I've been on vegetables and whole grains and lean meat, and that's kind of the new life. That's kind of our new life, but you know, whatever. It's not bad stuff. Definitely not bad. I mean, the bad stuff is what I've been eating. So suffice it to say, I'm not seeing the pounds flying off of me, but I had lost some when I was not able to eat really, and I've been able to maintain those pounds being off, I think. So anyway, that's the end of the medical stuff. We still need to find out based on the biopsy. I'll let you know when I find out what's what, just because I like to keep people informed. And it's kind of why I haven't been doing videos, is because the scan didn't work, and that pissed me off, and I was worried. And then they did the blood work, and then I was waiting for the results, and it's just a lot of stress and stuff, and I didn't want to try to bring that angst into a video and try to ham it up or be happy joy when I wasn't. So I figured today's a good day to show a few of these little pickups I grabbed. Nothing real expensive, because right now I'm waiting on my tally for my medical bills, which isn't complete yet. Yeah, I'm going to make a payment plan, but, you know, or something, but you know, I can't afford just to go berserk right now buying stuff. So the stuff that I bought here is reasonable or cheap, and I thought it was kind of interesting. My cousin came down last weekend. We played some Diablo 3 because his son came down and all three of us played it. Kind of started a game from the beginning and started playing it. And that was pretty fun. But I had been watching some random videos, and I had watched this old Metal Jesus video called Good Games with Obscure Names. And like him and his crew, you know, of friends, did this video where they named good games that had bad names, so nobody really bought them. And a lot of them, you know, that they mentioned were like handhelds or like Japanese games that I don't really care about. But one of the guys on there, Radical Reggie, named 2 games, and both of them looked good to me. So I wanted to find them, and I went out and was able to find both of them. One at the Vintage Stock and one at the Resell Electronics. And then I bought some other loose disc games at Vintage Stock, and I'll explain why here in a second. But the 2 games that I picked up, first of all, I went out with my cousin. We went to Resell Electronics, and we're looking around. And this was the second one that he mentioned in the video, but it was the first one I found. And that is a PS2 game called the Indigo Prophecy. And he said that it was called Fahrenheit overseas, but they changed the name because of 9/11. I don't know what Fahrenheit has to do with it other than that Moore video, whatever, Fahrenheit 9/11, you know? So, which didn't even have to do with 9/11. It had to do with Columbine, didn't it, or something? I don't know. I don't remember what the Fahrenheit 9/11 video was about because I never watched it. But Indigo Prophecy, it was an Atari title. He said there's quite a few QuickTime events in this, but that doesn't bother me that much. He said the story is really interesting. This was $6 at Resell Electronics. They also had a copy for $10, which I don't understand, because the copy for $10 was just the same game, and one of them was marked 10 and one of them was marked 6, so I got the one that was marked 6. Now, that actually bit me in the ass with these loose discs, and I'll explain here in a minute. So then we went to a pawn shop, and we went to a couple other little places. I remember going to the pawn shop. Maybe we didn't go anywhere else other than Vintage Stock. So I decided to go over to Vintage Stock because I was really looking for this other game, and it came out on both platforms. And it's a PS2 Xbox platform. But this is the one that he had talked about first, and I was really wanting to get it. He said it was a survival horror game. It came out around the time of Resident Evil 4, but it didn't really get a lot of traction because of Resident Evil 4, and it had a bad name, they said. Now, I guess Indigo Prophecy, I had heard of it, but yeah, it is kind of a weird name. I don't know if that really hindered its sales or anything. But he said this one, it just doesn't even sound anything like what it actually is, the name. And I looked for the PS2 version and couldn't find it. And I was able to find a Xbox version, but it was sans instructions. It didn't have the instructions. It's a Ubisoft title where you are a guy, like a Coast Guard guy that goes in with a SWAT team to this boat or a distress call to this ship. And you get there, and there's like some kind of people. It looks like some other like terrorists or something running around, and you start with that. But supposedly it turns into a survival horror game at some point. He didn't really get into it, but you start off in the deck of the ship, and the boat's kind of rocking, and rain's hitting the windows and stuff, and then or the camera, and he said you can actually get rocked off the boat if you're not careful, and I thought that was kind of interesting because the camera is kind of moving back and forth and stuff. But I haven't said the name yet, I know, but here's the game. It's called and I think I paid around $10 for this, which is about the going rate, and he said you could probably get it for $5 to $10. I actually played it for a minute, and I let my cousin's son play it because he's a little better at those kind of cover-based shooter kind of things, and it kind of starts off with a lot of that. The game, anyway, is called Cold Fear. And I understand, I mean, Cold Fear, that's kind of a weird name for a Coast Guard guy that goes into a scenario of a distressed ship. In the throes of a ferocious Arctic storm, distress signals are sent from a seemingly abandoned Russian whaler. As a Coast Guard veteran, Tom Hansen, you board to investigate and discover unthinkable horrors lurking beneath the ship's blood-stained decks. Create fatal traps using shotguns, flamethrowers, or any object you find to survive. Battle against incredible mutated enemies in treacherous, unstable environments. Rocked by huge breakers, you must steady your nerves and evade a watery grave by falling off the ship. So yeah, you can fall off the ship. Like I said, no instructions. The game was good. I ripped this onto my Xbox, no problem. It works fine. I also ripped this onto my modded PS2, works fine. Good deal. So then I decided, because they had this huge, like, bin kind of thing, just full of like little sleeves of loose discs. And so I started flipping through there with my cousin, and we ran across this game here, Outlaw Golf 2. Outlaw Golf 2, I have it for the PS2, but we used to play it all the time when my girlfriend and I would play it probably 10 years ago. And or more, and yeah, it's really fun. You beat up your caddy and shit, and the characters are real weird. You got like your redneck girl and your snobby rich chick, and then your stripper girl, and you know, there's a guy named Killer Miller who's like a convict, stuff like that. But this game was 99 cents, and the sleeves were taped shut, and I didn't rip it open. I didn't really look at it. And I got home, and this game was pretty scratched, and so I cleaned it. I cleaned it with a alcohol solution and a cloth, and then it still didn't really want to work right or rip. So I have a home resurfacing thing, and I resurfaced it, and it looks pretty good. I mean, yeah, granted, there's still some swirlies on it, but it copied just fine to my system, and it said there were no errors or anything. And I went to start it up and play it, and it froze. And I was like, well, that's weird. So I tried to run it off the disc, and it froze again. And I was like, running it off the disc didn't work. Running it off the ROM didn't work. I was like, maybe it's just too scratched up, is what I'm thinking. So I go back the next day. I don't take that back. It was 99 cents. I buy a second copy of the game because they had 3 of them in this thing. It was $3. I looked at it. It was not that scratched up. I brought it home. Actually, that is the second one I just showed. The first one was really more boogered, and I did that, what I just said, and it still didn't work. So I bought that one. I did the exact same thing. I come home, I cleaned it. I ran it through the resurfacer, even though it was 10 times better than the other one. It copied no problem. Same issue. When it goes to boot up, it froze, and then when it went to play off the disc, it froze. And I was like, well, this is odd. So, the other night, I think 2 nights ago, I decided to go back over there. I knew they had a third copy. And they had one on their shelf in the case. And so I went over and I dug through the thing for like 20 minutes looking for the copy. And then I was like, it was kind of scratched up. So I went over to the games and found the one in the case. And it was there. It was an Xbox game, but it was in a Blockbuster Video case. It still had the Blockbuster sticker on it. So I kind of cracked the seal on the sealed one and opened it up and looked at it. And the disc had some writing on it, and it had a couple little stickers on top. But as far as it being scratched up and stuff, it looked almost new, but it did have a couple little scratches on it. And I took the other one and looked at it, and it was more scratched up. So I put the one that was a little more scratched up into the case and put it back on the shelf, and took the one that was the least scratched up to the counter. And I also had found a couple other games. And I asked them, I said, do you resurface discs? I knew they did, but I just wanted to be like, do you resurface discs? And they're like, yeah. And I said, well, how much does it cost? And they go, well, if you're buying the game here, it's free. And then I show her this one here, and this is the one I got out of the thing that was not scratched. And she ran it through their resurfacer, because she goes, if you're buying it here, it's free. So I gave her this disc, and I said, this is the one I want. And so they resurfaced it there with their machine, which is like a really good machine. And so basically, it looks brand new. I brought it home, stuck it in my machine. It loaded, it ripped fine. Tried running it, it froze. Tried running it off the disc, it froze. We tried running it on my cousin's system, it froze. And then, so I had a brainstorm. I'm like, well, I have two other systems in the other room that are Xbox. Both of them are modded, but both of them have the factory hard drives in them. So I pulled both those systems out, plug them in, stick the game in. They barely have an 8 gig hard drive, and the game's about 3 gigs just to rip it. But I ripped it onto both hard drives. I go to start it up thinking it's going to freeze, and the damn thing starts up on the first one, off of the rip. It starts up and gets by the area where it keeps freezing on my system. So I was like, well, and then I hit restart, and I tried booting it off the disk, and it booted up fine, and it ran past the area where it keeps freezing on my system. Well, they're all my systems, but I mean the one I primarily use. And so I hooked up the other system, same result. It worked fine on the rip, it worked fine on the disk, but it won't work on my pumpkins, what I call the pumpkin, because I painted it orange. But the only thing I can figure is there's something with it that, because they don't have the factory hard drives in them anymore, it doesn't want to work right. It keeps glitching or freezing, and I don't understand why. Because it should run off the disk, I would think, even if it won't run off the rip. Because I've had that happen with a couple other games, Tron 2.0 being one of them. The rip would freeze, but if I played it off the disc, it would play it fine. Because I thought, well, maybe my drive is bad. But here's the deal: I bought like 3 other Xbox games in their deal for like $3 a piece, and that's what I'm saying. So I went back total of 3 times and bought Outlaw Golf games. I spent a total of $7 on those, because one of them was $1 and the other 2 were $3. And it'll work on my systems that have the factory hard drives in them, but it won't work on my one that doesn't, even though they're all modded, which is odd. But like I said, I dug through their deals and really scrutinized all their like loose discs, and I started looking at the quality, how scratched up they were. And I found 3 other Xbox games. Now, the first one I'm going to show is the PlayStation 2 game, and I bought it when I bought the first Outlaw Golf game that was scratched up. And I bought this one, it was $3. It was pretty scratched, but it's a PS2 game. I did the same thing where I cleaned it. I used my little resurfacer, which is like a hand crank kind of thing, because it aired out when it tried to copy it the first time. And then when it copied it I tried copying it after I used the resurfacer, it copied fine to the hard drive on the PS2. So this is a game I wanted for a long time back in the day, but it always seemed like it was pricey or never came down in price. So it was $3, and I just went and picked it up so I could rip it. I'm going to put all these loose disc games in my CD holder, my CD valet or whatever that you keep all your CDs in. I've got a bunch of program discs and stuff in it. But it is the game The Simpsons game for PS2. I think they also made this for Xbox, but it was $3. At first, it was a little scratched. It still looks kind of scratched up, but I ran the resurfacer on it, and it did rip with no errors onto the PS2. Now, I did start to try to play it, and it played fine. Like I said, the rip on the Outlaw Golf 2 starts, and it will play for a couple of seconds, and then it freezes, but that's on the Xbox. Now, these other 3 games I bought are also on the Xbox. Two of them, one of them I already had on the PS2, but I went ahead and picked it up because it was $3. And I just wiped it off with a rag. I didn't do the resurfacing on it. And used some alcohol solution and I used silk cloths, but wipe it off with a silk cloth. And then it ripped fine. And that is the game Blood Omen 2 for the Xbox. It was $3. I like Blood Omen 2. On the PS2, the lip sync on the a lot of the cinemas and stuff was not good. I don't know on the Xbox if it's any better. And then the second game I bought, I didn't even know they made this game. So I was kind of interested. It's a Marvel title, but I didn't know they had made this game, or it didn't ring a bell. So I went in and bought it. Like I said, I just cleaned this one with a cloth too, and it ripped fine. And I did try to play both of these, and they did play at the beginning through the first little area and stuff. There's no guarantee that none of these games won't freeze eventually, while I'm playing through them, because, I haven't played through them all the way, so I don't know until I play through them all the way whether they freeze or not. But I picked up for $3 Blade 2. Now, I didn't know they made a Blade 2 game. So, I was pretty sure they made a Blade game on the PS1, but this was for the Xbox and PS2. And it was interesting. Yeah, it ripped fine. And then the last one I picked up is funny because I had picked up, actually this isn't the game, but I'll explain. I picked up this particular title once before, and it was in a steelbook case, but when I went up to the counter, because they didn't have the game in the case at vintage stock at the time, the girl got confused and gave me the wrong one, so I actually got this game instead. But I found the original for $3 there in their loose disc. It was fine. I wiped it off. I stuck it in. It ripped it fine, and it started up fine. This is the game that I originally got given that was wrong that went in the steelbook case, and that is Doom 3 Resurrection of Evil. This one is one that they put in the case on accident in vintage stock, but I found the original Doom 3 collector's edition, or I don't know if it was a collector's edition, but Doom 3, and I had the steelbook, so I went ahead and ripped it and then put it in the steelbook case. So basically that's about all I've picked up in the last couple of weeks. Nothing real exciting. I did put a new hard drive in that PS3 that I bought for $40. I put a terabyte hard drive in it, which ended up giving me about 800 something gigs. And then from there, I bought a skin for it, which is like a blue flaming skull or something. It looked pretty cool. So I bought a skin for it, and then I put my original PS2 Model 2 back in my factory box and put it up. I'm going to use this PS2 now that I have for my primary one, and I put my original back in its original box. And I ordered 2 PS3 brand new Sony controllers off the internet for like $12 or $13 a piece, but they were shipping from China. And so it took them like a month or so to come, but I finally got them. And it's funny, I'm going to turn around and grab some real quick. It's funny because this isn't one of the boxes. This is the box for my camo one. But when I got them, this is the box for my camo one. The top flap on our boxes, or on the American box, this one was black, and it says DualShock Wireless 3 on the top. When I got the other 2 controllers, I ordered a black one, just a standard black one, and a white one because I have my white PS3 over here. And they came, and they're official Sony ones, and they're in official Sony boxes and everything. But this top flap on the box is like a baby blue instead of black. And I don't know if maybe they are the... I mean, all the wording on it was English, like all of the... on the box. It was all English and everything, but I know they use a lot of English over there. So I don't know if they were maybe Japanese... versions, because they work fine, but I don't know if maybe they were Japanese versions of the controllers instead. The only thing I noticed was I stuck one of them on the charger, and usually after it's charged and it stops, you know, reach a point where it's fully charged, it'll stop flashing, but it seemed like the white one was the one I took out. I charged it, and it never stopped flashing. So I don't know. It might be that they are Japanese versions of the controllers, which is fine. They work with the PS3 American version. But, yeah, it didn't stop charging, or at least maybe I didn't let it go long enough, but I had it on there for a long time. So I can't imagine that it didn't. So, but, yeah, I mean, they were official Sony brand controllers. They had black, white, blue, red, and silver, I think, were the colors. And so I bought a black one and a white one because I already have a name brand, that camo one, which I actually took the back on it because it was completely camo. I took the back off of it and put a standard black back on it, so it's got the camo front and then the black on the back of the controller. I still have the back, but I could put it back on there, but I don't want to. And then the other two controllers I have, one's like got a skin on it, it's like rattlesnakes or something. The other one's like a skulls, but they were off-brand ones or whatever, but they work fine. So I left the black one in the box and put it inside the box with the PS2. Model 2 that I put up. So there's a brand new Xbox 360, a PS3 controller in the box inside the PS3 box. So sweet. So yeah, video games. So I've been trying. I got back into Diablo 3 a little bit because I got sucked back into it doing that, playing with my cousins and my cousin's son, which is fun. And then the Cold Fear is pretty interesting. I'd like to give it a go, but I got hung up on trying to get this stupid Outlaw Golf thing to work. It doesn't really bother me that it doesn't work because I can play it on my PS2 no problem. It's just I like to solve problems when there's a problem and I can't figure out exactly what the answer is. Even if it's still a problem, I like to at least know what the answer to the problem is. You know, oh, it won't work because of this. Okay, well, at least I know why. But I don't really know why. The only thing I've been able to deduce is maybe it's because they don't have... Because my cousin's has a 40 gig hard drive in it that I put in it, and then mine has like a 200. So, but the other ones just have the factory hard drives, which are like 8 gigs or something. But they're all modded with the same mod. So, I mean, I don't understand why it won't work unless it's a factory hard drive. I mean, I really don't get it. So, the models are I think the 3 models, the one my cousin has and the other 2 I have are all the same model. The model that I had this transistor or some kind of like thing in it that you had to take out or it would start leaking corrosive stuff. And it doesn't really matter. All you have to do is clip it off the board or whatever to keep it from... It's a capacitor, that's what it was. Mine had it, so it was kind of an older system, so I thought maybe that's why it wouldn't work on mine. But then my cousin has the same, because I took them all apart, has the same model as the other 2, and it did not work on his, which has a 40 gig in it, but it did work on the other 2 backup systems that I have that just had the factory hard drives in them. So, I don't know. Anywho, I'm going to sign off because I just ran out of time, which means I went over the 30-minute mark. And, yeah. So, yeah, still, you know... I have ideas and then I put them on hold, or stuff gets me sidetracked, or I just don't feel like dealing with it. That's why It's just, I'm sorry about the Nintendo 64 thing. I've got all the stuff together. I've got all the games over there. It just doesn't enthrall me that much. But it's one of the few systems I haven't done a collection video on. It just doesn't... I guess I'm just not psyched up enough to want to do it. But I should just knock it out. So I keep dragging my feet on it. And I'm sorry about that. So we'll do it sometime soon. It's not a impressive... It's not like some ungodly, you know... awesome collection or anything, you know, so thanks folks, thanks for coming by. Comments are welcome. If you've played Cold Fear, if you've played Indigo Prophecy, if you know why the Outlaw Golf 2 won't work, leave a comment. And yeah, good to see y'all again, so to speak, and we'll have another video up soon, so I'll talk to y'all later, and see you next vid. Bye.
Entertained? Are you not entertained? Is this not why you are here?